Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz, Shauketaly.
And a wonderful morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo, and broadcasting on TV1, live on the internet and on Facebook, and later on YouTube. And of course, we are part of the Capital Maharaj group. Now then, this morning we're here with the news editor of the Island newspaper, Mr. SHAMINDRA Ferdinando, and we're going to be discussing current affairs. Very good morning to you, Mr. Ferdinando.
Good morning, Mr. Faraz.
Oh gosh, Mr. Faraz, that's...
First time I think on this program.
Yes, that's odd, isn't it? Now then, SHAMINDRA, yesterday we celebrated 50 years of knowing my friends from school, you know, our class group. And what struck me was we were all there, so we met each other back in 1968, right? So everybody's obviously gathered for this thing called the big match. You've heard of this thing, haven't you? Now then, what struck me was that there was no opportunity to talk about bonds there, but there was a different type of bonds, the bonds of friendship and unity. And it seemed to be that there was none of this ethnic divide, cultural divide. I wonder when this all started. Do you know, we didn't put ourselves into these little boxes of, you know, I'm this community and that community and this ethnic, this whatever. When did it all start, this business?
I really don't know, Faraz. I really don't know. I mean, people have...
I'm sure you were like that in your school as well. No, you didn't have these. Did you think of yourself as from a particular ethnicity?
No, you cannot ignore that factor, Faraz.
No, you can't ignore it.
Yeah, you cannot ignore it. But
you don't choose, did you choose your friends on those lines?
Definitely not.
Ah, that's what
Definitely
I mean.
not.
That's what I mean.
Yes. I think I have more Tamil-speaking friends I mean, in this profession than Sinhalese. A lot of friends.
I can honestly tell you that we just didn't think like that in those days. And I think as we go along, and I think by and large, Sri Lanka by and large, we're liberal-minded people in this country who want to get on. And, you know, everybody's friends with each other. And in between comes all these little, how can I call them, diversions. And these diversions are usually made up by that very special breed of people called politicians. And that moves nicely to our topic of the day. So, SHAMINDRA, your newspaper, The Island, no faith motion against the PM to be moved shortly. Really, it's 21 days or something since that last elections, and the country still appears to be in a mess.
Certainly, I mean, they are still struggling to come to terms with that defeat. Now see, the local government polls were held on February 10th. Up to now, they have not been able to overcome the issues. Right now, they're still talking about whether to appoint Field Marshal Fonseca as the Law and Order Minister. The UMP insists that it wants Field Marshal Fonseca.
Why? Well, what's so special about him as opposed to anyone else?
No, I mean, they believe that he's the right person. Actually,
why? Because he's so outspoken against the Rajapaksas?
I don't know whether they intend to use him.
Is that the one thing that makes him special?
No, for us now, it's actually not up to the minister. Actually, the Attorney General's department will have to move against Rajapaksas or
anyone. That's right.
So, even if they appoint Field Marshal Fonseca as the Law and Order Minister, I don't think he can do anything
That's
special.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. Is it possible for the Minister of Law and Order to shoo things up a bit?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I mean, can he lift the phone up and tell the judges, listen, mate, you're taking too long on this case. Can you finish it off in 5 days? It's not the kind of thing that the minister does. Right.
No minister can do that.
Exactly. So then why all this fuss about this thing?
No, for us, Yahapalana is a mess. Now see, following the elections,
Yeah.
they reshuffled the UNP bank.
Yeah.
Now they are taking time. They are discussing what to do with the SLMP. Right now, nearly a month after the LG polls, they are still not finished with it. So there's a huge issue. There are all the other issues.
And I'll tell you what, I know this wasn't in your paper, in the island, but it was in the Sunday Times. And in the center pages, in the column, in the political column, there was a paragraph there that I found absolutely shocking. And of course it says, what it said there was that they say, according to the column, it says that there may be, in the next few days, a cabinet paper to take away the Central Expressway project and give it to the minister in charge of Kandy redevelopment, which is Lakshman Kiriyalla, who was, before the reshuffle, minister in charge of highways. Now, I'm sorry, does this mean that the new minister of highways, who was the minister of highways previous in the 100 days and all that, Kabir Hashim, does this mean that he's not good enough to handle that project? Why this?
I'm sure if that report is correct, I think it's correct. I'm sure Minister Kiriyalla insisted that particular project, I think Section 3
yeah,
that connects Potuhara with Kalagadara
via Rambukkana. I know that because I have roots in Rambukkana. So, you know, it always sticks in my mind.
So Minister Kiriyalla must have insisted that he be given that project.
What an astonishing state of affairs when ministers can...
Faraz,
so are you telling me that Ravi Karunayaka...
You go back, right? That they brought the central bank under the Prime Minister, right?
Yes, well, under the Minister of National Planning and Economic Development.
Yes, so
who also
maybe
is the Prime Minister.
they should have, when they carried out the reshuffle last week, they should have brought it back under the Finance Ministry, under Mangala Samarwila.
But it's I'm sorry, but this project, and I have no qualms about saying this, right from the beginning of this project, it was very clear that this one company was going to be awarded it. I asked the Ministry Secretary the other day, I said, not that Ministry Secretary, but you know, an SLS and his secretary in another ministry, and I'm not going to say who it is, but they all know the system. And I asked him, look, what happens when there's something needs, he said, well, we call for a proposal and then we call for tender. I said, so when this tender is, everybody's broken all the rules, and so it's not what they call not responsive, what happens then? He said, you just cancel that and you call another, you re-tender. In this case, they didn't re-tender. And right from, we've pointed it out with documentary evidence. First they said it was a government-to-government thing. All nonsense, complete nonsense, and lies. Lies and lies and lies. And then you find that the same minister who was central to this whole thing, this whole departure from process, that's what it is, it's a departure from process. The same minister's changed. So everybody says, ah, good, he's changed. Then you have this little golden nugget of information coming from the Sunday Times to say that in the next few days, a cabinet paper is going to be giving that same minister the same project that is contentious. Come on.
Faraz is not the only instance.
Yes, I know it's not the only instance.
Number of other
but
cases like that.
I'm talking about the amount of
National
money.
Lotteries Board.
That's right.
I remember when Ravi Karunayaka was shifted from
that went to foreign. Yeah.
Yes, so Yapalana, you know that they have caused turmoil, right?
But I can understand it if
you must realize, Faraz, that both the SLAP and the UNP equally responsible for the situation. That's the whole issue, right? They are continuing with this arrangement.
Yeah.
because Western powers want it.
Indeed.
Right? Nothing else. So they don't care. They want to keep their parliamentary groups together.
Right.
So they have to appease people like Mr. Giriel and various ministers. Now, yesterday I saw Ravi Karnanayake on TV. He declared that there was no need for the IMF to remain in Sri Lanka. He wanted IMF out. Right? So the ministers, even the previous government was the same. I mean, they simply make statements.
But you know, talking about the IMF, when they impose their sort of conditions, but some of those conditions are difficult. I mean, the fertilizers. Do you remember?
Actually, Ravi Karnanayake blamed the IMF for the current situation in the country.
Well, he's not entirely wrong, is he?
I mean, what is blaming the IMF now?
Well, that's true. It was after the sort of shutting the door after the horse bolted sort of thing. Yeah. But the thing is that, you know, with the farmers and the fertilizers and all that, the IMF doesn't want, it doesn't encourage intervention, does it? It wants as an open an economy as possible. So it doesn't encourage that. If you remember, when Ranil Wickremesinghe was, you know, the Prime Minister in that short government in 2002.
2002 to 2004.
That's right. In that period, I remember that the fertilizer issue was there then. And when President Rajapaksa came along, that problem wasn't there.
You mean he solved it?
Well, he solved it because he wasn't beholden to the IMF. But in this government, and now of course, if you raise it up, I'm guaranteed part of the answer they will give you will be that the debts from the previous administration has meant that they have to do this. Everything's blamed on that. None of this is blamed on their clear inability to manage the country's finances properly. One lot have scammed their way through the central bank, and another lot is scamming their way through the roads. Another one's doing the coal. So no wonder they can't meet their, there's no time for them to focus on the real matters.
Certainly, certainly.
Where is reconciliation today? Well, what's happening in the UN now?
You mean Geneva?
Geneva, yes.
Geneva, of course, that we have been given 2 years to address these issues by this government. So, in terms of this Geneva resolution, they recently appointed the OMP, the Office of
Missing Persons. Yeah.
So there's a lot of controversy, but it's headed by Salipinis.
But what's wrong in having one of those institutions? Isn't it good?
You know, Faraz, you must realize that this government, the SLP UMP government, co-sponsored a resolution in Geneva in 2015, October 1st, against Sri Lanka. And this is the only country.
But was that
on the basis of unproven allegations? I mean,
that's right. That's very essential. It's a good point you make that we must sort of. These are just unproven allegations, and we must have an investigatory process to look at that.
Even before they reach a conclusion on these allegations, they passed this resolution in Geneva. Under Geneva resolution, we have been forced to do various things. Now, the appointment of OMP is one, right? So now, we were given an opportunity in October last year, when the British Parliament was told that 40,000 people did not die in the north in 2008-2009 period, and then and that the total, I mean the maximum number could be maximum 8,000, of which about 2,000 to 3,000 were LTT cadres. Still, Yahapalana government refused. The government refused to bring this information, this data, to the notice of Geneva. They refused. For how many months now? From October to March.
Is that because
now for us now the sessions are on? and we have not informed Geneva of this situation. The latest
but Shamindra, to be fair,
it's actually, for us, it's very unfair by this country, by this government.
Yes, I know, but I'm asking a sort of reverse question here. Is this because this government is taking the view that even if it's one person too many, and therefore they want this whole matter looked into?
No, I don't think so. It's all politics. You know, in 2010 and 2015, the TNA agreed to support a coalition led by the UNP on the basis on this, right?
It's all politics.
It's all
politics. We'll discuss It's All Politics after this short break. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline. Welcome back to Newsline, and we're discussing politics. Shamindra Ferdinando is my guest here this morning, and he's just said that this is all politics. But you're talking about lots of lost lives, or missing lives somewhere.
Faraz, you cannot...
How do they account for the people who left the country through non-traditional means?
Western powers have refused to cooperate with the previous government.
Right.
So, thousands of people who have been listed, categorized missing in Sri Lanka are living overseas.
Yeah.
They are British nationals now. If you refer to the protests outside the Sri Lankan High Commission in London on 4th of February, they were all British nationals. They were not.
Yes, but they were the British nationals of Sri Lankan extract.
So see, thousands live overseas. In Canada, there are over 300,000 Sri Lankans.
Yeah.
So, but
do we have data to say that in Canada there's let's say 300,000 people of Sri Lankan origin? Can the Canadians tell us how those 300,000 people came?
They refuse to cooperate, and
so what's the point? Why are they coming poking their noses then if they can't help?
For us, you must.
Why don't
forget? They are all voters, right? Politicians here or in Western world, in any part of the world, they'll do anything to appease the electorate.
No, look,
right?
I'm obviously there was a time when there was some people genuinely left. There were some genuine reasons. They couldn't be continue to be harassed and so on. But what I'm saying is, now we've come fast forwarded, and now we're in this place, and it's they who are insisting that we have all these mechanisms and investigations and so on, which is a jolly good thing for us as a country. But why can't they help us and say, listen, we've got 300,000. By the way, 292,000 came here quite legitimately. They flew in, or they came by ship, or whatever it is, their passport stamped and all that. And there's 8,000 who came other means. So then that goes a long way towards helping.
Faraz, the previous government, they have tried its best to obtain information from Western countries. They refused to cooperate.
But they didn't. But that's because of other diplomatic unhappinesses about the last government, isn't it?
They still refuse to cooperate, right? So even if they have this OMP, nobody will help us to identify the people, Sri Lankans who have obtained foreign passports. Now see, they have issued passports to new names.
Yeah.
Right. Now as an example.
You mean sort of to double identity?
Yes. New names.
So one will be Mr. X, but that same Mr. X will be Mr. Y in
Berlin or some other place. So it's a huge issue. We really don't know, how to overcome this situation, because...
So will there be a real resolution to this whole thing?
I don't think so, for us.
Or is this just going to be...
Actually, the whole thing is meant to prevent the former president from coming back to power. Right? Because see, the allegations against the previous government, there were allegations against the armed forces, there were allegations against the political leadership of Sri Lanka during the war. So they want to keep the former president out of power, so they will continue with this thing in Geneva.
Viewer says, OMP will investigate people who disappeared in the JVP uprisings too, not just people from the north, the former conflict areas. Isn't that a good thing? Thousands of people of all ethnicities. And it says, it actually just says not just Tamils. The Office of Missing Persons, that institution, isn't that a good thing?
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Because, Faraz, you must know,
it takes a bit of the work away from the police. But does the OMP have investigative powers?
It's powerful. It's powerful.
It's powerful.
It's powerful. But you cannot address this issue by having this OMP.
Yeah.
Right? Because most of the people reported missing either died during fighting in the north, or they are living overseas.
Now,
as an example, I can tell you, a JVP leader, Kumar Gunaratnam, right? Now, he disappeared in Sri Lanka in 2013 during the previous administration, and the Australian High Commission complained to the Defence Ministry, and they tried their best to identify this person. When they inquired into it, they found out that he had been issued an Australian passport. Right? And he was called Noel Mudirige. Right? Now here, he is still identified as Kumar Gunaratnam, leader of the Frontline Socialist Party, a breakaway group of the JVP. But he received an Australian passport.
Under a different name.
Under a different
That's the point you're making.
He was called Noel Mudirige, a Sinhala Buddhist, right?
So then how did he leave here? Under which name did he leave here?
He left Sri Lanka through some illegal means.
Right.
Right.
But what is his real name?
Kumar Gunaratnam.
So how did he become whatever Mudirige?
He claiming that he was under threat by the previous government.
So he just didn't change his name legally, as you can by deed poll.
No, he appealed to the Australian government, and Australia issued him with an Australian passport under a different name, Noel Mudirige, right?
So were the Australians aware then of his real name?
Certainly, they were fully aware. So, so the Australians, the Canadians, the British, they have issued thousands of passports. Thousands. I'm talking about thousands. Not
what, knowingly that this person is. I can understand one case where there's a particular.
It's not
threat.
an isolated situation for us. It's practiced all over the world.
Now then, we have one question coming in here from a viewer. Now that you're discussing politics, can we give a new definition to it, calling that politics in Sri Lanka is to not leave the post until either forced out or until assisted by Jaratnas or Raymonds?
Spot on.
Spot on?
Yeah.
Well done, viewer. You got it spot on according to Shamindra. So is that what this? So what's going to happen? This no faith motion.
No faith motion, Faraz, I don't think.
Can you tell me?
Unless, see, in the Parliament, the UNP has 107 members. 107. That's 106 plus one SLMC.
Right.
So the UPFA group consists of 95.
Right.
So to move a no faith motion, to obtain at least 113 votes in Parliament, both SLP factions, that's under President Sirisena and under former President Rajapaksa, must get together. In addition to their 95 members, the JVP or a section of the UMP must support them.
Or the TNA?
TNA will not. Definitely not, because the TNA's main aim is to ensure the full implementation of the Geneva Resolution.
Right.
They will not do anything to jeopardize victims in there. They will not do it. And they will do.
So is that 106, 107?
No, the UPFA, they have 95 members.
No, I'm talking about the UMP.
107.
107. Is that including the TNA?
No.
No.
They have 16 members in.
So they've got 123 then.
Yeah. So the JVP also, I don't think, although they say that they will support the no faith motion, that they will do something at the last moment.
Right.
And will not support, because whatever the problems they have with the Prime Minister and Yahapalane, the JVP does not want a return of Rajapaksa.
Another viewer from up there, up in the hills, says that these days the government is out of control.
Government or the political parties in the government?
Well, it says government here.
Yes.
And it says that the private sector runs the country.
You're also in the private sector.
Well, I know, but I think what he means is that there's no investment from government, and the private sector, whatever investments are there, it's being made by the private sector. I think that's what he means.
Ah, yes, true. It's a government that's unable to decide on cabinet ministers for us, right? For a month since the last election.
You know, can I ask you this question? Please be perfectly frank. I'm asking you because I'm just going to put the ball on your side. Why is it that there's so much of concern that the Prime Minister must take the flak for the bond scam? Why? Tell me the points. You know, 1, 2, 3, whatever.
Prime Minister instructed the former governor to change the system.
Right.
Right. So I think
that's point number one.
That's point number one, and that paved the way for the 2015 February scam.
Right.
Right. So it was revealed by the media within a couple of days.
Yeah. This happened on the 27th, yes. And the first
then
report came out on the first Sunday.
March 17, 2015 in Parliament. The Prime Minister really strongly defended the new system in place.
Yeah.
And up to now.
But do you know, Shamindra, what to me, you said the one point.
Actually, before that, I must mention that the central bank was brought under him.
Yeah.
And his ministry.
Yes.
So that was the first.
That was the first.
The subsequent instructions to the government.
Yes, but what about, why didn't the Prime Minister, as the minister, why didn't that minister in charge of the central bank, having told Mr. Mahendran that we want you to remove the conflict of interest position where his son-in-law was the owner and on the management of one perpetual treasuries, yes. Right? So when the media and everybody started talking about this, which was within days of the bond issue, why didn't the Prime Minister, even at that time, late juncture, why didn't he call up?
In 2015?
In 15. Why didn't he tell his secretary to tell the Registrar of Companies to come with the file? Because then the Registrar of Companies would have been able to explain it to him within minutes that although the son-in-law had left the board of perpetual treasuries, he was actually a shareholder through a holding company. And therefore, even under the provisions of the Companies Act, the 2007, he could have been deemed to have been a shadow director because he's a majority shareholder.
But they are fully aware for us.
So you're just saying, was the Prime Minister aware?
You know, it was a joint operation, right?
So that's why...
That's why for us...
So that's why people are saying...
They carried out the same in a bigger way in 2016, right? Then the President waited one more year until 2017 to appoint the Commission. If the President intervened in 2016...
Yes, but that's a little bit unfair, isn't it? Because I know we're about to finish, but isn't that a bit unfair? Because, you know, it's like your shareholders have got the chief editor of the paper, and he's got other editors like you're one of them. So I think it's unfair just to say, well, you know, he didn't do that, and so therefore it's the shareholders' fault. Because they give you a chance to say, right, look, carry on with the paper. So the same thing, the President says to the Prime Minister, right, carry on, you're in charge of running the admin of the country. So you do it. And so basically, people have been, like we've just said, the Prime Minister didn't do anything about it right at the beginning.
No, he didn't, no.
He didn't do anything. Therefore,
no, he did it.
He appointed the 3-member independent committee.
The UNP carried out that operation. It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. Shamindra Ferdinando, you've put it so
bluntly.
Bluntly. And well said. Well, thank you for explaining that, because sometimes I do question ourselves as to what it is, and it's always refreshing to get another perspective, and in this case the perspective is one and the same. Thank you for being so blunt and so open. On that note, and we look forward to seeing you on our programs again.
Sure.
Thank you. And that's the way it was on Monday, the 5th of March 2018. Take care. God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.